My husband was sick, too weak to even sit up in bed. So, I did what any wife would do. I went to his office to request a few days off for him. I walked in wearing an old cardigan, no makeup, holding 2 folded papers in my hand. I looked tired. I looked ordinary. I looked like nobody important. The receptionist glanced at me the way people glance at something they plan to ignore. I told her my name. I told her I needed to speak to someone in HR about my husband's leave. She smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind of smile people give when they've already decided you don't matter. "And who exactly is your husband?" she asked, barely looking up from her screen. I said his name. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. She looked up at me slowly, her eyes moving from my worn-out shoes to my tired face, like she was trying to solve a puzzle that refused to make sense. Because the man whose name I had just said was the CEO of that entire company. And she had no idea that the woman standing in front of her, the one she was about to humiliate, was about to change everything. 3 years ago, I married a man named Daniel. Not because he was rich, not because he ran a company. I married him back when he was still building that company from a small rented office with 2 employees and a dream that most people laughed at. Back then, we ate simple dinners. We celebrated small wins like they were huge victories. I remember the night he closed his very first client deal. We didn't go to a fancy restaurant. We sat on the floor of our tiny apartment and ate takeout, laughing until midnight. Even after his company grew, even after it became one of the most respected firms in the city, I never changed. I still did the grocery shopping myself. I still wore my old jeans on weekends. I still drove my modest car instead of the luxury one sitting in our garage. Daniel always told his employees one thing: never judge people by how they look. The most powerful people in the room are often the quietest. I never thought that lesson would apply to me, in his own company. That morning, Daniel woke up with a fever so high he could barely speak. The doctor advised complete rest for at least 4 days. He tried to get up and go to work anyway, but I stopped him. "I'll handle it," I told him. "I'll go submit your leave request myself." He gave me a tired smile. "They don't really know you there," he said. "You've never come to the office." I didn't think much of that warning. I should have. I walked into that glass building for the very first time. Everything gleamed: marble floors, modern art on the walls, employees in sharp suits walking with purpose. I felt slightly out of place, but I reminded myself, I wasn't there to impress anyone. I was there to help my husband. I approached the front desk. A young receptionist named Claire sat there, perfectly polished, scrolling through her phone before she even acknowledged me. "I need to submit a leave request for my husband," I said politely. "He's very sick today." She sighed, actually sighed, as if I had interrupted something far more important than her job. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, still not looking up. "No, but this is urgent. He has a high fever and—" "Ma'am," she cut me off, "you can't just walk in here and request time off for an employee. That's not how this works." I stayed calm. "I understand, but I just need to leave this letter with someone in HR." She finally looked at me properly then, my plain cardigan, my tired eyes, the folded papers in my hand, and something in her expression shifted into judgment. "Look," she said, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor, "people can't just come in here claiming to be someone's wife to get special treatment. If your husband is really sick, he can call in himself or submit it through the online portal like everyone else." Her words stung more than she probably intended. But it wasn't the words that hurt, it was the way she said them. Like I was trying to trick my way into something. Like I didn't belong. I took a breath and I asked her calmly, "Can I at least know who I'm speaking to?" "Claire," she said, almost proudly. "Front desk supervisor." I nodded slowly. "All right, Claire. Let me say his name clearly one more time." I said Daniel's full name. The name printed on the top floor's office door, the name on every official company document, the name that appeared in business magazines as the founder and CEO. Claire's expression cracked. That's our CEO's name," she said slowly, almost laughing in disbelief. "You expect me to believe you're married to him?" "I'm not asking you to believe anything," I said. I'm asking you to pass along this leave request. She actually laughed then, a short, dismissive laugh. Ma'am, with all due respect, our CEO's wife is a very well-known woman in this city. She comes here sometimes. She doesn't look like this. She gestured toward me, toward my ordinary clothes, toward my exhausted face. Something painful settled in my chest, not because she was rude, but because she truly believed appearance defined worth. She believed a tired woman in a cardigan could never be standing where I was standing, holding what I was holding. I think there's some mistake here, she continued, straightening her posture like she'd won an argument. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises before I call security. Security. She was ready to have me removed from my own husband's company. I looked at her, steady and calm, and said the only thing that mattered. You should check the internal employee directory. Under CEO, emergency contact. You'll find my name and photo right there. Her smile faded. I want to be honest with you, this was never about revenge in the way people imagine it. I didn't want her fired out of anger. I didn't want to destroy her career out of spite. What I wanted was simple, the truth to be seen clearly, without excuses. Claire, still doubtful, typed my name into the internal system with shaking hands. And there it was, my photo, my name, listed as the emergency contact and legal spouse of the company's founder and CEO. Her face went pale. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't need to know who I was, I said gently but firmly. You needed to treat every person who walks through that door with basic respect. That's not a rule for VIPs only. That's a rule for everyone. At that exact moment, the elevator doors opened. Daniel walked out. Wait. Daniel was sick in bed. How was he standing in the lobby? The truth was, after I left the apartment, he felt a strange guilt for letting me walk into his own company as a stranger. Worried about how the staff might treat someone they didn't recognize, he pushed through his fever, got dressed, and drove there himself just to make sure I was okay. He arrived just in time to see Claire standing frozen, my leave request papers trembling slightly in her hands. Is everything all right here? Daniel asked, his voice hoarse from the fever, but still carrying quiet authority. Every employee nearby suddenly went silent. Claire turned as pale as the marble floor beneath her feet. Sir, I didn't realize this was your wife. I was just following procedure. Daniel looked at me, then at Claire, piecing together what had happened in seconds. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Procedure, he repeated calmly, does not include disrespecting someone because of how they're dressed. He turned to the small crowd of employees who had gathered, watching the scene unfold. This is my wife, he said clearly, so everyone could hear. She has been by my side since before this company existed. She doesn't need a title, a designer outfit, or an appointment to be treated with dignity in this building. No one does. The lobby was completely silent. Daniel didn't fire Claire that day. I want to be clear about that because real growth matters more than harsh punishment. Instead, he called a company-wide meeting the following week. He didn't single Claire out by name. Instead, he shared the story, my story, as a lesson. He said something I'll never forget. The way you treat someone who seems to have nothing to offer you says everything about your character. In this company, kindness and respect are not optional. They are requirements, just like skill and experience. Claire came to me personally after that meeting. She apologized, genuinely this time, not out of fear of losing her job, but out of real reflection. I judged you before I even gave you a chance to speak, she said. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Not with you, not with anyone. I accepted her apology, because holding on to anger wouldn't have taught her anything. But watching her change, watching her treat every visitor after that with the same warmth, regardless of how they looked, that taught her everything. As for Daniel and me, we went home that evening. He rested. I made him soup. We laughed about how one ordinary morning had turned into an unexpected lesson for an entire company. Here's what that day taught me, and what I hope it teaches you too. Never assume someone's worth by their appearance. The woman in old clothes at the counter might be someone's whole world. The quiet man in the corner might be the one signing your paychecks. Respect should never be reserved only for people who look important, because true character is revealed in how we treat those we think we don't have to. Kindness costs nothing, but disrespect, even the small kind, can cost far more than we realize. So the next time someone ordinary walks through your door, pause. Listen. Treat them the way you'd want to be treated, because you never truly know who is standing in front of you. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever been judged by how you looked, only to prove someone completely wrong?